Okay, we'll start. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to Field Radio, a Fieldproxy podcast. Which is, if this is your first time listening, welcome. And this is a podcast surrounding everything related to field service. Whether you're new to the world of field service or you're not, whether you're a field agent or a manager, there's something for everyone here. With Field Radio, we share some of the best practices that you can implement in your day-to-day lives, in your day-to-day job, and excel as a field service professional. That is what we aim to do at Fieldproxy. That is what we aim to do at Field Radio. That is what we aim to impart as valuable knowledge. And if this is your first time listening, you also know that, you have to know. If this is not your first time listening, you also know that we do not carry any fees, we do not run any ads on the show. Except for that, we ask that if you like this show, just share it with someone, share it with a friend or someone in the same industry that you know that might actually benefit from listening to the podcast. Now, today's episode, first of all, new setup. If you're listening to this on Spotify, go over to YouTube. You're going to see that we have a completely new setup. Thanks to our special guest who's here.
It's only going to be getting better, of course.
Definitely.
So we're completely revamping our studio for shooting a lot of amazing videos and good content for you guys to watch.
Yep. But yes, our guest has spoken already, so I'll just move over the camera to him. I'll roll over the mic to you. Durges, why don't you give us a quick introduction about what you do?
Sure. Hey folks, hope you're doing all well. So I'm Durges and so my responsibility here at Fieldproxy is to ensure that our customers stay with us and that they have a very amazing journey with us. And of course, to make sure that they also have and reap the maximum productivity by using our application. Right? So that's all about what I do and my team does.
Great. A really short and sweet introduction, but Durges actually plays a vital role here at Fieldproxy. Even before we started recording this, he actually onboarded a new client. Isn't that Durges?
We onboarded clients. So
yes, a team
let's just say that there are language barriers. I'm sure it comes in to help us with respect to talking to Hindi with a client, and we onboarded one client who was from Pakistan and another client who was down north. Right? So yeah.
Amazing. It's been amazing. A lot has been happening at the Fieldproxy office on all ends of the spectrum essentially. But Durges, the reason actually for this podcast episode, the reason that I wanted you here is because a few weeks ago, if someone is not listening to this for the first time, they would know that a few weeks ago we had a conversation with the entire sales team. Okay,
right.
This was during the beginning of the year, and we kind of had Adil, Arjun, Vivek, all of them.
Yes,
we had
the stars of Fieldproxy.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. We had the entire gang at on the Field Radio podcast, and they were sort of giving us their predictions for the future of field service as it is in 2023 and maybe into 2024, given the economically challenging times that are coming ahead, how companies can raise themselves and everything. One of the things that they mentioned that really struck a chord with me was that these guys, I believe it was Tajun or Adil, one of them had mentioned that field sales agents, they do a lot of work manually still. Even in this day when technology is playing a huge role, a lot of companies are still using the age-old technology of having manually doing paper forms and all that stuff. This especially applies to field sales where an agent has to make maybe 200, 300 data points of entry every single day. Now, so I wanted to understand how beneficial it is when someone like, say, any of our clients uses Fieldproxy versus when they do manual data entry. How big of a difference does technology make in the day-to-day operations of a field sales agent? So, why I wanted you here was, as a customer success head, as the head of customer success, as someone who's committed to making sure these people are the happiest when they use Fieldproxy, how big of a difference do you feel? And we won't take all of the customers together, we'll just take maybe one client and we'll talk about them and we'll try and understand what their process is, how they are operating, and then maybe you can shed some light onto how happy they are with using technology and versus without using technology, before and after maybe. if we can do that, that would be great. And the case study that we are taking today, or the company that we are trying to break down today, trying to understand how they operate, is going to be, of course, Prism Johnson.
Right. Okay.
So, Durgesh, over to you. The mic is all over to you. The next 20 minutes,
Right.
just take.
So
Run away.
that was both a question and an overwhelming amount of context that is
Okay.
set right before going here. So you already know this, and we are in the business of making the life of field teams and field managers easier. So we're in the business of making things easier with our software, right?
Yeah.
So having said that, the major challenge in our industry today is the fact that everyone has their own unique process that they work with, and that is something that Fieldproxy greatly addresses.
Yes.
So irrespective of how unique their process is, we would be able to cater to them, identify how exactly they work, and provide them with that appropriate solution.
Right.
So once they come in from sales to customer success, so we act as consultants to essentially just kind of, let's say, get to know the nuances of how they operate and provide them with an account in which they carry out their day-to-day process.
Okay.
And like you said, carrying notebooks, documenting information, or finding some random way to document information and everything gets lost in the process, that is all in the past. And now our application has come to solve exactly that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it doesn't come with challenges. It does come with challenges, of course, because this is a relatively new industry and a new field that we're looking at. But ever since its rollout and ever since they started until this point, we have been doing fairly well with Prism Johnson. Yes, they have been facing issues here and there, but I would say they've come a long way. Because we have onboarded about 185 agents.
Yeah.
So just like that, right? And managing the count. So just imagine how they were
That
done it
scale is
previously.
insane, right? Yeah.
So no one have any idea as to how the managers are going, or the field agents would be going into the field, meeting their customers, getting orders, and coming back. So the only way to track it is by using traditional Excel. And how would the agents document this?
They were doing this using just Excel beforehand.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming that. I'm not sure if that's what they do. Obviously, they would have their own processes, their own set of softwares, which cater to different parts of their process. Preliminarily, all of us tend to have that, right? So the first go is just directly going to Excel, where you can document all the data, have a list of your customers and all of that.
It just makes sense because Excel is on your computer right there, and just a bunch of spreadsheets and numbers that you have.
Even otherwise, there might be n number of applications for every process, for every task in a process.
Okay.
So I think that they might have found it really chaotic before they got us. I do not really know their history as to how they came to us. But yes, so when it comes at the end of the day, when it comes down, when the field team has to operate and when the field team has to document the data, I always ponder upon the thought as to how they did it before. And I'm sure what we're doing right now has really made a huge difference over the last couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you who are listening and do not know who Prism Johnson is, I believe we made an error that we didn't actually specify who Prism Johnson is. But Prism Johnson essentially is one of the largest publicly traded cement manufacturing companies in the country, essentially in India. They handle I forgot the number, but it's several million tons of cement every single year that they are generating. Now, all of the cement that they are generating, they'll have to find a way to sell it. For this, they have thousands of agents situated across India that go about day to day. Maybe the way, since you've spent a lot more time with the agents, you know exactly what they do on a day to day basis. But from what I saw at a very high level was that they're going every single day. They're going on the field and they're trying to make a purchase. They're trying to sell these cement overloads that they have. So Prism Johnson, apart from just selling these cement that they manufacture, they also have tiles, bathroom fittings, all of ceramics, all of these stuff that they sell on a day-to-day basis. So all of these products are also something that come under Prism Johnson's belt. So manufacturing as well as selling all of these, making sure all of these quantities are met across their distributors. It's a very, very, very complex task, especially when you have a very large field team. right? So that is how we came to know about, like you said, Durgesh, you didn't have an idea of exactly how they came to us. That is how we actually went about talking to them. We started initiating a conversation with them. We were like, you have such a huge workload that you might consider opting for a technology or a tech stack that will help you ease some of this workload for your field agents, because they're doing so much every single day. And we'll get to the numbers as well about how much data they are logging. I believe even you were surprised, I was surprised when we looked at the data that they are submitting every single day. But the amount of data that they do, it didn't make sense that they were using just manual processes. So that is why Prism Johnson also considered Fieldproxy a really good partner. But then again, Durgesh, could you elaborate on, like I said, the day-to-day processes of how these guys were operating? These guys are operating, the sales agents that are making sales, that are creating leads, all that stuff, so that we get a better understanding as to how this thing is operating.
Right. So essentially, if I am going to be a field agent of Prism Johnson, I would start my day by just like opening and just like I would obviously have a lot of people to follow up. I would have a lot of leads in mind that I would want to go and visit, and these are the things that would be constantly running in my mind. My target is essentially to make sure that I go meet a particular person, and if he's a new person whom I've never met before, then he's going to be a prospect, right?
Okay.
So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it, I might have gone to places and have already networked with them, and I might have added these prospects, and I might have also made them to my customers by selling them cement.
Okay. Yeah.
So these are the two major things that always is going to be constantly running in my head. And from a company's perspective, it is important that they review my numbers in order to give me my incentives. So essentially, I would have to create a number of leads, make sure these leads become customers, and make sure those customers gives us business every now and then.
Right.
So this forms the crux of the process that we are going to be implementing for our agents, or we have already implemented for our agents right now. So essentially, within the application, we have two processes.
Okay.
One being lead creation.
Within Fieldproxy.
Yes, within the Fieldproxy application. So one being lead creation, and the other one being a follow-up kind of a process. So essentially, in lead creation, the agent goes to the field, he identifies a lead, and he creates a lead.
Okay.
And that is how it's being documented.
Okay.
So after he has created a lead, he has to visit that lead first, and he'll complete his first visit, and then he'll mark a follow-up visit.
Okay.
So between this first visit and follow-up visit, he might even convert that particular client, and from then on, those people would be loyal to Prism Johnson and will be buying their products.
Right.
So in between, they also have distributors widespread across centers to distribute Prism Johnson products. And they will be getting the offloading the stock from that to the customer's site, to that customer's site.
Right.
So that's essentially how it works. This is fairly a very simple process that we could think of, but for an agent to go create 8 to 10 leads in a single day, go and talk about conversions and make sure they're converted, get all those data, and make sure all these data is transferred to their higher ups, so that they process all of that and then they provide incentives. Now that is going to be a very laborious task.
Exactly.
And that's why we are helping out with it.
That's a really nice thing that you brought up, Durgesh. It seems like a very simple task. It's just talking to the prospects and converting them, then making sure that these things are being done. But the complexity happens when it's not just one agent, it's 185 agents. And it's not just one prospect that they were talking to, it's 10 to 20 prospects per day that they are talking to. And then they have to manage all of these. They have to take down sales orders. Are they also taking down sales orders through the app itself?
Of course.
Okay.
So essentially, they talk about what product they pitch to their client, and then if a sale is done or if the client is converted, they mark a conversion, and then they go about it.
Okay.
So there is no catalog as such to track how much it is being sold for and all of those things. But essentially, just to know how many conversions are being made in a day, or how many leads or how many prospects have been created in a day. So this is essentially what Prism wants to track at the time being.
Amazing. So they're also able to take down orders from the app itself, show the prospect the orders and everything, and then take it down. Now, once they take down this order, what is the process that happens? Does someone from Prism Johnson's, does one of Prism Johnson's distributors come and handle the sales cycle, or is it the same agent that
It's
manages?
the same agent. So all of these
Okay.
people are sales agents.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're all sales executives and
Ah.
sales engineers. So essentially, they will be converting the sales.
Okay.
And yes, it is a hierarchy-based system,
Mhm.
wherein like all of them have managers. That there are region-based managers,
Right.
and there are widespread teams across different territories.
Mhm.
So all of these territory people will be reporting to a regional manager. That person will be reporting to another person,
Mhm.
and that's how it works.
Right.
So this is more predominantly into sales.
Mhm.
So they just want to track how much they're bringing into the system and how much of stock is going out and all of those things. How much they're pitching and what brand they have pitched.
Mhm.
All of these information gets circulated.
Got it. Now, how does that field agent know exactly when one of the persons that they have converted has run out of any product, basically, let's say cement, one of the sales agent he's converted this one guy, let's say Durgesh, I am the sales agent, Shoaib, converts Durgesh, and he supplies him with 3 or 4 bags of cement. Does he know when these 4 bags of cement are run out? How does he follow up on that? Is there a reminder kind of thing set up, or
So I believe that they have. I'm under the assumption that they have something else
okay?
for their customers to reach out and place orders.
Okay, got it.
Essentially, so once they do that, they will be able to do another site visit to that customer and then provide them with whatever is required.
Okay, got it. So the consumer actually gets in touch with the sales agent again whenever they want a refill.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. It's actually a really interesting thought. You've given me a lot to think about.
What is actually interesting and what has actually inspired me, in fact, working with this particular organization and working with the people associated with it, is that the way they've adopted the application. So yes, while I keep stressing the fact that we are in the business of making people's life easier, in order to make it easier, people would have to adopt first, get to know how to use the application, and majority of the folks out there may not really be technically sound.
Right.
So, and right now, like if it's us, if it's just you and me, we just quickly take the application. It takes us 5 minutes to adopt.
Yeah.
That's how easy is our application. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else out there needs to be like that. So
right. That's a great point actually, because even in a previous episode, I believe there was when Tarjun or I believe Adil, someone had brought up that same exact point that not a lot of people, for you and me, it seems very simple. This all just makes sense. But people in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, sales agents, service agents, for them, the concept of technology itself is new. And for them to be able to adopt this technology, it has to be really simple and easy for someone to just look at it and grasp. Even if it takes a little bit of training, you have to be able to grasp it as easily as possible in order for there to be greater adoption. Now, that's a really interesting point, because with Prism Johnson, you have to have agents across India, right? This may be in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. How do you believe the sales agents are actually coping with adopting that technology? You mentioned that it was easier for them, but how easy exactly? Do you think they handled this kind of technology before, or was it the first time they were handling, and how did you kind of help them adopt all of this really quickly?
Right. So adoption works both ways. So we need to adopt the customers, and the customers will also have to adopt our product, right? So these people have not just invested a huge amount of money on us, but they've also invested a hefty amount of trust. So like believing that our application could solve that problem in terms of managing and all of those things. So we brought in an aspect that we hadn't had in our application earlier, and that is the offline feature of our application. So this allows agent from anywhere, even if they're traveling remote, if they do not really have any internet signals, or if they don't have any mobile data, they can still make entries, they can still submit responses. So when they do that, it gets stored locally, and when they do have internet, when they're done with their work, they can simply just upload it online, and all of their data gets stored.
That
is something that we had to accept and we had to do for the customers, and we took a great amount of pleasure and a great amount of passion to get that sorted for them. So having said that, I guess it works both ways. Adoption works both ways. Sometimes it's really necessary to identify what is the pain point of the client, and if you're able to cater to that, it definitely brings us a lot.
Yeah,
It
but
brings us a lot
there
more.
must have been a certain amount of training period as well for them to get used to the product, right?
Of
Was
course.
there
So that's why I said, like I said, right?
What
So
challenge was
one
there?
thing that I was really impressed with
Mhm.
Prism Johnson working with them, and something that really inspired me was the fact that a company with almost 185 agents to start off with, like you said, there may be more agents
Yeah,
also. But to
definitely.
start off with 100 plus agents being trained is not the question at all. But after
won't be
training,
able
are
to
they
train
going to
more
be
than 30 agents
exactly?
at a time, yeah.
But after training, are they going to be using it?
Uh-huh.
How are they going to be using it? How are
Exactly.
they going to be reporting problems? All these were a big question mark, and here is where Prism Johnson did a brilliant move by hiring BCG, Boston Consulting Group.
Yep.
So they literally hired BCG to implement our application for Prism Johnson, right? So we had a person called Mr. Siddharth Jain. So he was very instrumental in ensuring that we were able to implement our application with Prism Johnson.
Right.
So it was very strategically and methodically taken care of, right? So the first part of the onboarding was like, we split them into batches. So we split them into in batches of 30 members.
Okay.
So the first 30 members had the first onboarding session. We had a Q&A, an audacious Q&A session. We walked them through the mobile application, resolved all their queries. And apart from that, we also sent them training videos for them to refer and cross-check. Best practices documentation that was not just done by us, it was done personally by Siddharth himself. Frankly speaking, it was our job. And while we did do it, later on, he actually stood there, he did that, and he got all of that going, right? So at any point of time, whenever an agent is facing issues in terms of adoption, they could just simply open the training material, just go through all of that,
Right.
have a look at the best practice and start using the application as always.
Amazing. Mr. Siddharth, if you're watching this, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and kudos to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making our jobs easier as well. Yeah.
Yes, so we learned a lot. We definitely learned a lot from a customer success perspective, from a customer experience perspective as to how to take things professionally by communicating with Mr. Siddharth and also by interacting with agents of Prism Johnson. So while Siddharth implemented, I think cooperation is key when it comes to implementing an application for a huge number of people, right? So each and every agent very greatly cooperated.
Right.
All of them made use of what was given to them, and they did it very diligently, just to ensure that all of the data is being tracked properly. Not just for them, not just for their sake to get incentives, but also to make sure that the company knows what they're doing and the company is able to manage. So not all of us we would want to adhere to all the rules that is being enforced on us. They're supposed to be doing this, they're supposed to be doing that. But now you're giving an application, you're asking agents to adopt to this, and that's going to be taking time. So I think the company by itself has an amazing work culture. So kudos to Prism Johnson, and I guess that's one of the major reasons why they're able to raise. They're able to take it really smooth. The highlight of this is we have a WhatsApp group. We communicate issues and we offer support through WhatsApp itself. So currently we do not have any chatbots within the system, which probably in the future we would have that integrated to our platform.
I talked to some of the product. They said that it was in the lines.
It was in the lines, but yeah. At the moment, yes. So at the moment, we support customers through WhatsApp, and we have all 185 agents in our WhatsApp group.
Amazing.
So whenever they do raise issues, so those would be the genuine of the issues. They would have actually experienced it. Then we do a testing, and then we get back to them. It goes in a back and forth manner. That's how we resolve issues. So while doing that, we understood how much effort an agent has taken to understand the application completely, and he is able to identify an error and come and tell us.
Exactly.
So that is the level of dedication each and every agent has, and that is what their organization has imparted on them. And it's like it's not just a rule, but also like if you want to be successful, if you want your metrics to be tracked, if you want incentives, this is the way to go about it.
Amazing. I think that's a great point, Durges, that you mentioned. Not just conveying that the importance of technology, how important technology is to a field agent, you also mentioned that it's also the employees or the field agent's responsibility. That shift in mindset happens at an organizational level. That Prism Johnson nailed perfectly. Is what
They
I said.
nailed perfectly, and yes, it was very, very inspiring and still inspiring to be working with them right now. And I sincerely hope that we are able to like give them a very stable application and the productivity doesn't get lost at any point of time, and we are constantly thriving for all of that.
Great, great, great. So, at the end of the day, if you had to rate it on a scale of maybe 1 to 10,
Yeah.
1 to Fieldproxy,
Okay.
how important do you think technology is to the day-to-day operations of a field agent?
I believe with the rapidly evolving environment around us, I would definitely rate it 10. So
Yes.
we do need this, and I'm an old school person, and I do love documenting information in pen and paper. But still, at the end of the day, for a business to thrive, it's very data dependent. And in order to secure data, and in order to be able to seamlessly transfer data, we definitely need technology just to make that transition really fast.
Right.
So it's a matter of speed. Whatever I can do in pen and paper, and for all we know, that might even get lost. And forget pen and paper. There are like multiple n number of applications out there that is just trying to solve one problem.
Yeah.
So we need one application to solve one problem, and I guess that I think predominantly ours does that.
Definitely.
So yes, although like people keep coming up with a lot of latent needs and see whether they'll be able to track their location, whether they'll be able to track their sales, whether they'll even be able to track their stock.
Exactly.
So we are slowly addressing all of those things, and we are also nailing it in a way. Yeah.
Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are no ads in this podcast, but if there was one, it would be for Fieldproxy.
Definitely, an endorser of the company, not just because I'm an employee of it, I've been a fan of the company even before coming into it.
Exactly.
So forgive me if I keep, blowing our own trumpet, if you will.
But the Fieldproxy deserves that, because the amount of potential that our clients see and that everyone else sees, that everyone who's building Fieldproxy sees, you kind of have to think, okay, this is a great tool that
Yes,
people would want to use. Yes.
And trust me, guys, when we say this, so it's like I keep mentioning this again. So I just want to quote this: "We are in the business of making people's life easy, but we do it at the cost of making our lives really, really, really tough." Because that's the amount of time we experiment, we come up with iterations, we see what permutation and combination is required to get that customer really happy. And at the end of the day, to also ensure that the app works. So there are 5 teams here, right, within the application right now, and there are about 30 of us. And each of us take it upon us and make it our sole responsibility to ensure that this message gets passed across the masses.
Right.
And also, people would have to experience it, especially if you're having a huge team with a lot of field agents. And I guess you should experience it, and should also be giving us feedback for the application so that we can make it more better for you.
Definitely. I guess that's about it, guys. Durges, just like that, you wrapped up 28 minutes of of the episode. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Sure,
We're sure to have him
My
again,
pleasure.
probably next week, doing another company breakdown. But we'll see how his schedule lines up, given that he's solving people's problems all the time. But yes, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Lovely to meet. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening into this episode. Like I said, once again, we do not run ads on this show, but so there's no way for us to make any revenue out of this. But there's only one thing that we ask in return. It's that if you like this episode, do share it with a friend. If you like this podcast, do share Field Radio with a friend. The more people that listen to this podcast, the better the field service community becomes. So.
Yes, I would just like to add on, that note. So, like, if you feel that you would, if you want to see more better content and what you expect from us as a field radio, that would be great. Just put it down there in the comments, and we'll make videos respect to what you're commenting.
Definitely, this is coming up on YouTube as well. So be sure to comment on that. Our editor Velavan, he needs a lot of feedback. He needs a lot of inspiration. If you comment on this, he'll feel happy. So. Follow Velavan, do it, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll catch you in another one. This is Durgesh and Shoaib from Fieldproxy signing off.